I've knocked off another comic from my 2024 goals list, but that's not all that I picked up recently. Stay tuned as I review everything that I've been picking up from eBay and Heritage Auctions over the last several weeks. Welcome back, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and in today's episode, we are going to go over the comic that I picked up that's going to come off of my 2024 goals list, as well as some other items that I've been picking up off of eBay and Heritage Auctions over the last several weeks. But before we begin, before I sit down and do the comic book haul for you today, definitely hit that like button, slap the subscribe, and click on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my episodes that I put out each and every week, Mondays and Fridays at 10 a.m. All right, guys, sit back and get ready for the comics.
2,000 years later.
All right, guys, so the comics that I'm going to show you today are all coming from eBay and from Heritage Auctions. These are ones that I've been picking up mostly since the beginning of this year. Now, I've been holding on to some of these, kind of waiting for these to accumulate a little bit, and because I've been slowing down some of my online purchases outside of, say, Infinity Comics auctions on Hip Comics. That's someplace I've been buying a little bit more frequently, and I've still been buying and going to some of the comic book shows locally here over the last couple months as well. But I have slowed down purchases on eBay and on Heritage Auctions especially. So we're going to start with Heritage Auctions because this is the last item that I have picked up, and it was, being quite honest, it was a little bit towards the beginning of the year, and it's been sitting here, and I've been waiting to show it off because I love this book. It is a beautiful cover, and it is the first appearance of the Creeper in Showcase 73, I believe. Yeah, it's 73. I should have written that down. I should have remembered that. But I love this cover, but to be honest, I actually like the cover to the Creeper #1 better than this. Now, this is a book that I've had a couple times graded, but I've sold those in the past. But when I saw this come up on a recent auctions towards the beginning of the year as a raw, they had it listed on there as a VF, and I decided, okay, I'm still in that frame of mind that I'm going to buy raw off at Heritage Auctions during their weekly comic book auctions and clean and press and try to get a good grade bump off of this. And to be quite honest with you, this is a little bit rougher than I expected. I didn't do my due diligence. I think this still is pretty good. Actually, I'm reading my notes here. It's sitting in front of me there. I think I said it was a very fine. It was more like a fine, and I didn't spend a lot of money on it. But to be honest with you, I think I overpaid for what the prices are on some of the graded versions of what a fine, if it graded out exactly the way it's going to, what this condition is right now. I mean, we're talking, it's $100 6.0. Even a 6.5 just recently went for $75. 7.0 went for $150. So then basically I'm taking a little bit of a gamble because, like I said, I paid a little bit too much for this, and I need to get this thing up. If I'm going to do what I want to do here, clean and press it, try to get it bumped up, I need that to get into that 7 to 7.5 to at least make a little bit of money if I decide to sell it, or even an 8.0, then we're talking a little bit better, of course. But to be honest with you, I think I paid too much money for this. I've got to be a little bit more disciplined into how much money I want to put in these books with regard to how much I think I could sell something for. I don't need necessarily look at every book and intend to sell that, but at some point they're going to get sold. They're not going to stay. I'm going to pass away at some point. My daughter's going to get all these books. And, I realized, I just said, but I just realized I'm going back-to-back videos where I literally am talking about passing everything down to my daughter. But it's true. We're going to pass these on. You can't take it with you guys. So I want these books to be as the best books possible so she can get the most return on value for these. That's kind of the intention. Whether I sell them before I pass away or whether she sells them, definitely I'm looking to get a grade bump and try to get the maximum amount I can out of these books, and I will enjoy having it in my collection until that time. But this is what I picked up from Heritage Auctions. Love this book, though. It is a great cover, just like Creeper #1 is a great cover. So super happy to have this. I'll be interested to see how this one is going to come out once I get it into the press. It definitely has some I don't want to say finger creases necessarily, but it could definitely benefit from a nice press on this. Yeah, it's actually a pretty nice book. But as I said, I'm going to have to get this into a 7 to be satisfied, and I'm going to have to, maybe I can bump this up to an 8.0. Now, that would be really good. So, that was the one thing from Heritage Auctions. Now, I've been going back to eBay a little bit more recently, and I'll be quite honest, I got into the hype of a recent cover price top 10 list that came out, and because of the news of the new Fantastic Four casting that just came out. And if everybody saw the promotional photo they have of that, they realized there's not just Fantastic Four, there's actually a fifth member. And this was his first appearance in Fantastic Four 209. That's Herbie the Robot right there. Now, Herbie was created as part of that animated series. Was it late 70s or early 80s when that came out? I can't remember exactly. But they couldn't portray the Human Torch on TV, so they replaced him with Herbie the Robot right here. And this is his first appearance, and this has been on the cover price top 10 list here for the last few weeks. And this is, it's funny because I literally, in the last video, I just talked about the issue right after this, issue number 210. I picked up the Great Galactus cover in a recent trip to a local comic book show. And that's going to be, it's a nice set because I have in there to press. I have that, is it issue 212? I believe it's the one with the first appearance of Terrax. So this is a great little storyline. I guess some John Byrne artwork. I think it's Joe Sennett doing the inking. Who did the writing? Was it Marv Wolfman? I'm going to take a guess. I think it's Marv Wolfman. You know, I did said you know again, but let's take a quick look. My curiosity is coming out right now, so I'm going to take a quick look here. This is a really nice comic, and like I said, I went in for cover price top 10 list came out. I saw the book, and I immediately just went to eBay, and I found a really good copy, and I found a good price on it, and I went ahead and bought it. And I was right. It is Marv Wolfman. Yes, John Byrne, Joe Sennett doing the illustration. Yeah, it's a great little run before John Byrne actually took over the book. I don't know how many people realize that he was on the book before he actually took over the book. But that is a great little issue. It's going to have a nice little collection when I get all of these space adventure ones from, I don't know if it started in 208, but at least 208, 209, 209, 210, and then 212. What I can't think about right now is what is 211? I cannot remember what 211 looks like. Anyway, great book to have. Now, let's see what else we got here. This I saw pop up on eBay. I was at dinner with my wife, and this popped up. The auction was about ready to end, and I had just noticed it. And trust me, that was not, when you're having dinner with your wife, don't be trying to buy stuff off of eBay. It doesn't go well. But this book does not pop up very often, and I had been looking for it for a while now, and I don't know if I'm going to get this graded. I may go ahead and get it graded. It's not in as good a condition as I would really like to get graded, but I'm super happy to have it in a raw. And one of the reasons I wanted this is the original comic of this story that when I was growing up, I had the reprinted story that they did much later. I don't even know what issue that particular was, but I remember the reprint had a really purple cover on this, and I'm going to just go and show it to you. It is Gold Keys, Walt Disney, Uncle Scrooge. This is number 60. This is the Phantom of Notre Dame. And I remember growing up with this story, but it was a much later Gold Key issue, and it had a purple cover instead of all this blue. And I think what it was is I had seen this, hadn't thought about it in years, and when I'm going on Heritage Auctions, and every week I check out the auctions, and a while back this had popped up as a graded version that I ended up losing out bidding to. But I decided I want to have this raw in my collection. So I have made Uncle Scrooge number 60 one of those books that I watch for whenever it pops up on eBay. And this one popped up, and I'm going, okay, it was actually an auction. Not it wasn't a buy it now or anything like that. It was an auction. So I had to be on the phone watching the bidding just so I could make sure I could get my final bid in there at the last second, just in case someone tried to snipe me. Of course, I'm the one who's doing the sniping, I suppose, too. But so I ended up with this, and this is a really nice copy. It's got a couple of, it's got at least 3 color breaking spine ticks that aren't too bad over there, but the corners on the outside of the cover here look really nice. And it's a nice 12-cent Uncle Scrooge right there from Gold Key. I don't remember what the transition was. What issue did Uncle Scrooge go from Dell Comics into Gold Key? They just transitioned the numbers right over there. And I'm not too sure what it was. But this is a book, as I said, I may not get this graded, but it does have some nice value if you want to get it graded. I mean, I'm going to say that this is in a fine, maybe very fine minus type grade. So I looked up some prices, and 8.5's $130. The last sale on this was in 2014. I don't know if you can really translate that into today's numbers at all. 9.0's $153, 2017. 9.2, which I don't think we can get up to, actually went for $900 just a couple years ago. But that, again, was during the comic book boom. So hard to tell you what the real price on this is here, but great book. I may get it graded just to keep this in my PC at this point. But that wasn't the only Uncle Scrooge that this particular dealer had. He had a handful of others. They had a lot of auctions going up that night. And big fan of Uncle Scrooge. He's one of my favorite all-time characters. But so I still try to pick up any of his Dell comics, his appearances in Dell, some Gold Key to a certain point. I'm probably to the early 70s, really, which is what these are, probably late 60s, early 70s. But they had issue number 59 as well, and I remember that story as well. Now, I didn't read this from the original comic. I read this from the reprinted versions of this. They were famous for just reprinting the comic, and they would change some of the coloring and everything. So I've read these stories. It's just been a million years, and in a much later issue and everything. But this is also a very nice copy. It could stand a real nice press, though. But this one actually, it's probably a little bit nicer than number 60 there. And that one's got some value as well. 9.0, which is kind of where I think this is at the moment without doing anything to it. $148, but you haven't seen that sale since 2017. 9.2s go up to $275, and that was 2015. That tells me that this one actually could have maybe even more value than the other one. As I said, it's in a little bit better condition. But adding to my Uncle Scrooge collection, that's not necessarily a 2024 goals list. It is just an ongoing goals list that I keep adding Uncle Scrooge to my collection. All right. Let's go ahead and reveal the book that ended up being what I teased at the beginning. What was the goals book that I knocked off my list? Well, let's go ahead and do that, because then I'm going to go and focus on some of the things I've been picking up from my LCS that I mentioned earlier and from a certain artist website. But I picked this up. I saw it listed on eBay, and decent price, but it had a best offer attached to it. So what I did, this is a story. I'm going to sit back, guys. This is a little bit of a story. I sent in an offer, and it was, I don't want to say it was a low ball, but it was fairly low. What I was comfortable paying for that. And I got a message back, and the seller this must be his technique. He reached out to me and he said, I'll accept that something to that effect. Is like, I'll accept it if you say hi to me on Instagram. And it was a kind of a curious way to get me off of eBay onto Instagram. And I'm going, well, I'm a little intrigued now. I'll play this game. So I went over to Instagram, looked him up, and I sent him a message, and and he came back and he said he would accept that offer through Instagram, and it included shipping too, which I didn't inspect as well, because on eBay I would have paid that plus the shipping. On Instagram, he was offering to sell to me for that price with shipping included and through PayPal, but it wasn't, and I was expecting this. This is the way I was expecting this to go down. It was going to be friends and family. And he didn't do that. It was goods and services. So that right there gave me some security in this transaction, feeling like I could go through with this and still know that I was going to be protected if it was some sort of scam, which honestly it feels like. That's how this feels like it's playing out. But I went ahead and played along with it, knowing that I was protected. So let me show you the book that I picked up, and I'll talk about the book a little bit too. It is X-Men 112, with this part of that Claremont run with John Byrne. It is part of my goal to collect every John Byrne X-Men from 108 all the way up to 143. And I know what you guys are going to say, which is one of those issues is by Dave Cockrum, and I said that's okay, I'll include that one too, just to keep it in order. But this book right here is what a great book. You've got this great battle between the X-Men and Magneto. John Byrne, Terry Elston artwork, Claremont writing, and then you have this beautiful George Perez cover. Now, why is this? If you guys follow me at all, you probably know that I talk about this a lot. Last year I picked up a bunch of X-Men in these 9.6s. Well, I owned a 9.6 in this, and at the time, more than a year ago, I got an offer. There's times when I look at these and think, wow, the prices on these are really good. And I had a 9.6 and I had a 9.8. And I decided, okay, I've got a 9.8. I'll sell the 9.6. Well, got a really good price on it too. But then I started looking at how much the 9.8 was worth too, and I said, you know what, I can part with that. So I ended up selling the 9.8 as well. I thought that was, I remember buying that book, and I spent $100 on that book, and that was a good return on investment. One of the best ones I had last year. But that left me without having this back in the collection. So here's the deal. I ended up adding this back into my PC, and now this 9.6 will put the bag back on it, and it will go back into my X-Men, John Byrne X-Men run, and we'll knock that back off the list. I actually had to go back and put it back on the list. Now I got to knock it off the list again. But I'm super happy that this all worked out very well. So technically this was an Instagram sale, not an eBay sale, but it all worked out, and this came through really, really good. I had a good conversation with the seller, and I checked him out on eBay, had a good seller rating and everything. I don't know how often he does this, but it worked out in the situation, so I was happy to have this back in the collection. So I'm gonna leave this. Actually, I'm gonna set it down, and that's the end of the comic books for today. This is the end of the eBay and the Heritage Auction comic books, Instagram if you want to call it that. But I've also picked up some things, and this was a little bit closer to the beginning of the year as well. And that's because this artist was having a big sale on his website for just about everything. And you can buy comics, his exclusive covers on there. But I'll show you what I picked up here. It is one of the things that I like to get besides comics are obviously prints. Prints, as you can see on the wall of prints in the back here, they're all signed by the artist. And in some cases, like the small print of Avengers 120, I've actually got Jim Starlin, Steve Englehart on here. Who else is on there? So I've got some other things up here with multiple people. It's not just the artists. Sometimes it's the writers. Well, I'm a big fan of J. Scott Campbell. And for my, I want to say for my birthday or Christmas, I can't remember which, my daughter got me a beautiful Danger Girl print. In fact, if I can move the camera, it's right up here above me. And I picked the one print that I wanted out of several, and I kind of picked some of the older prints that were published around, I believe, 1998. I kind of liked J. Scott Campbell's illustration style back then a little bit more than I like it these days. And even though he has more modern Danger Girl prints, and here, I just gave it away, they're going to be Danger Girl prints, I kind of like the way he was drawing it back then. It's just I want to say a little less Disney than it was back then. Anyway, let's just show you the prints. So, and here's the deal. They were all, I want to say, more than 50% off, or around 50% off. So here is this Danger Girl print. And you can see there's his signature. They're signed as well, of course. There's his signature right there. And this does look like it's washed out, but this is the way it's colored. Sort of they're in a subterranean type situation there, so that's not as vivid as I probably would have liked, but that was one of the prints that I really liked. And you notice I've already got them framed and everything, so at some point I will change out some of these prints and I'll put these up. And then we had this one right here, and this one I actually really like as well, but it's only of Abby Chase, really. And you see his signature is right there. And that one I really like. I think this was my second favorite. And then I've got, like I said, another one up on the wall right up here that still has the three main girls, Danger Girl on there. So nice little collection. He was running a big sale on his website. So I decided to pick up the prints. You could have picked up, he's got plenty of comic exclusives on there as well. And I continue to follow J. Scott Campbell, and at some point I'll probably maybe pick up some of the comics that are signed or whatever, but right now I was really interested in getting those prints. He's got all the Disney princesses that he's been doing over the last couple of years too up there. They're really nice, but when I think J. Scott Campbell, I think Danger Girl. So that's what I picked up from his website. All right, so that leaves us with the last thing I've got right here. And this is something that I saw towards the beginning of the year. And I want to say I had gone to my comic book shop for a sale. And I cannot remember when the sale was. It might have been around right after Christmas, New Year's. But it was definitely up there, and this item had just come out. And the one thing about some of the sales at my LCS, you may get a discount for being a box holder there, a subscriber of some of the comics there and everything. But when they're running these big sales, and this shop does a lot of sales on their trade paperbacks and their hardbound books and things, usually 50% off. And that's how I pick up a lot of my trade paperbacks as well as my artist editions from IDW that I pick up there. And I wait for those 50% off, sometimes 60%, but most of the time 50% off sales. And that's how I pick up a lot of my artist editions. So again, I've given the reveal here of what I'm picking up. Well, this had come out and it had brand new. It was actually on the new comic book wall as a new item that week. So I knew that it wouldn't be one of the items that I could get it for 50% off, not being a new item that week. And I just had to bide my time and hope that they would still have a copy of this by the time they had another sale. Now, luckily, this sale, they've had sales multiple weekends over since I was up there. And come to think of it, this might have been the big Thanksgiving. No, it wasn't then. I cannot remember when I was up there that I saw this. It definitely had to be a sale for something. There's some reason I was up there and I cannot remember what, but I just remember I couldn't pick this up for the 50% off. I had to wait. So what I did was, here a few weeks ago, they had a weekend with a 50% off sale, and I said, hey, I'm going to run up there and take a look. It's the only thing I'm going to be interested in for the most part. So let's run up. And so I ran up, and the store, I don't think I've mentioned it yet, is Cards, Comics, and Collectibles in Reisterstown, Maryland. They are the host of the Baltimore Comic Con here in Baltimore every year. And I was lucky. They had it sitting there. They had at least two copies sitting there on the floor. Nobody had snatched these up. I never see anybody buy these. I know they sell them, but I never have been in the store when I see somebody else buy one of these artist editions. But here's what I picked up, guys. It's very appropriate. It is the John Byrne X-Men artist edition. And let me open it up here, because I haven't even opened it. I've only opened up the box. I haven't even unwrapped it. It still has the shrink wrap on it. But here it is. This is like I said, the John Byrne's X-Men, the artist edition right here. And I have been waiting to do this video. It's been sitting here waiting for me to open this up. I can't wait to get into this and to see that artwork up close. I will never be able to afford one of these original art pages. Now, I own some John Byrne artwork, but they come from New Gods and from a little bit from JLA. I want to think. Oh, I do have one X-Men Hidden Years page. That's as close as I'm ever going to get to an X-Men page, but I'll never be able to afford a page from his original run right here unless I hit the lottery. But this is about as close as I can get. So I cannot wait to dig into this right here and really take a close look up of some of that artwork and see some of that fine Terry Olsen inking as well. It's going to be interesting to see which books are in here. I don't think it's not going to be the entire run of his X-Men run, but it's going to be a lot of them. And this really is a nice pair. This is really something nice to be able to put towards that 9.6 CGC goal of getting all those books graded as well. I'll keep that right there beside them, and I'll be able to look at this and look at the great artwork that John Byrne did over the years while he was on the X-Men. So I couldn't be happier about this. You always hear me say that. I keep saying it. I couldn't be happier about this. Well, I guess I could be happier if it was 75% off, right? But that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this comic book haul. If you did, definitely leave me a comment below. Let me know what your favorite item was from today, because I've got several, and I like all the stuff I got. I usually do. Although, like I said, I regret kind of picking up this just because I don't know if it's going to grade out quite as much, be as good a grade as I'd like. But still, nonetheless, a great comic book haul. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. But that's it. I'm out of here. You guys have a great day. I will see you for the next show. And just remember, every comic has a story.